The happiness, the well-being, and the health of people are at stake, you know?
Yes, I know.
And that is what is
That's
now
why we're talking about this.
about much concern, that when we allow us live as nature by using cognition, the processing of all information, we will find this happiness and well-being.
Okay. So let's do that then.
Professor Schippers, may I ask you some questions?
Yes, of course. What do you want to know, Rico?
Welcome at Follow the Science. Today I'm talking to Arend van Campen. He is an entrepreneur but also a scientist. He's working on information theory and he has great theories on everything is energy but also everything is information. And we are missing out on a lot of information. So let's talk to Arend about this.
Well,
Hi Arend, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here, and
Yes.
hopefully we can discuss this information theory, which is an important part of perhaps an overlooked science up to now.
Yes, we have been talking quite a bit and you have been reading some of my articles. I've been reading some of your work, but your work is with a lot of words that a lot of people don't understand, but also with a lot of, almost mathematical.
Yeah, it's
let's
a bit,
try to make it accessible for a lot of people. So what I got from it so far, but we can talk about it, is that information is really important, but we're missing out on a lot of information, especially, for instance, by censoring. The information base gets smaller, and this is a real big threat. This is what you're saying. And something else is, if I look at it from a psychological perspective, a lot of people in the world, or maybe the world as a whole organism, has been brought into a survival state, and we are a little bit in, let's say, a depression, but literally a psychological depression as well, as a world. And a depression is going down in, let's say, movement, in information, in the breadth of scope that you have. And so let's say if people are really depressed, they will lie in their bed and not do anything anymore. So how does that relate to the world as we see it today?
Yes, well, it actually relates to the energy levels, right? An energy level. If you have no, let's say, purpose or self-esteem or a goal in life anymore, and then you think, oh well, the world is going to collapse, of course, then unconsciously you create the collapse yourself, because it's like this energy level of consciousness is related to the energy in the nature, how to do work, really, to make things happen. Now, if you just think about the psychological effects of this depression.
One thing before you say that, not everybody will say that the world is collapsing, but I have a paper that I wrote with Johnny Unitas, the top one, or at least the top 10 scientists in the world, and and we say, okay, societal collapse is very near because we see a lot of markers of societal decline. Yeah. But not everyone will see that, right?
No, it just depends on.
If I tell people that, they look at me like I'm crazy or something.
Well, it is like, I think collapse is a big word, of course, and I always use entropy, but entropy is kind of a difficult definition to understand. The most clear, the most easy to say, okay, information needs to be used in everything we do. If we don't use it, we end up in entropy, meaning disorder or uncertainty. Now, this is based upon the laws of physics, of thermodynamics too.
Can you give an example of not using all, because it's very human to not really use all the information available, because then we would get crazy if we...
Yes, it is like, but if you, for example, have a goal, a purpose, a goal, let's say, okay, I can only reach that goal if I deny or ignore information. This makes the goal unachievable already, because the information is equivalent of energy to do the work to get there in the first place. So the contradiction we now find, that people want to have something without doing all the work, really, meaning getting all the information that's needed, including information that will tell them that it's this purpose, your goal I'm going to achieve, is harmful.
So give a very concrete example. Do you have a...
Yeah, well, a concrete example we can go to,
Because
of
people
course,
will think
to the...
this is so
Yeah,
abstract.
the purpose of, now, let's say the purpose of the financial system, CBDCs at the moment, right? It's a very actual idea of digital currencies. To make that succeed, such a thing, that success is depending on the information it allows. If we say, okay, it's harmful to them and harmful to them, and we ignore it, then of course this whole system will be harmful in the end for everybody and will not be achieved for 100% because it can never be, because it lacks the information, which is energy, to be achieved.
And what
So-
information are we missing out on?
Well, the information that, for example, that if I harm somebody by this system, I must allow the system to be able to change that it becomes non-harmful. And this is based upon cybernetics, meaning the governance and science of control.
Yeah, cybernetics, as I understand it, is, for instance, very easy.
Yeah.
When you put up your heating.
Right, feedback,
then-
yeah.
the feedback loop. Well,
Right.
a lot of people won't know it, so let
No,
me
yeah.
maybe briefly explain
Sure.
that if you put on the heating and you would say 22 degrees, or maybe let's say 18, because it's the gas price is really high, and once the temperature drops a little bit, then the system will give a feedback. Okay, the temperature is dropping, so the
Yes.
heating needs to be on.
That is of
That's a
course
cybernetic system, so it's feeding back.
it's a
the
feedback
information.
loop system that allows itself to learn all the time. So it adapts itself automatically. Now, what we have built is systems, they are not allowing information, no feedback anymore, because when the feedback means that it becomes harmful, we made it path dependent to go there anyway. So we make a central plan, Europe, Russia, USA, central planning is very, very dangerous because they don't learn anymore. They can't adjust that plan anymore.
Right. So what I've
So-
seen, for instance, in the Corona situation is that, well, I was one of the very early people that said, hey, there's a lot of harms in
Yeah.
the policies that are being done.
What much
Harmful policies,
Yeah.
and the harms are bigger than the possible gains, which
True.
are
Yes.
also a little bit elusive. And so when I tried to feed that back into the system kind of punished me.
Yes, exactly.
Well, so it's people that didn't want to talk to me anymore, and
Exactly.
the university wasn't happy with the information that I gave, and so this kind of information was not allowed, which is
No, and
dangerous, I think.
Exactly, because in physics we say information is negative entropy, meaning that it's order. This is a
So
physical
negative
fact.
entropy is order.
Right,
Okay.
and entropy is disorder. Let's just keep it
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
yeah?
Because negative people think negative, but in this
Yeah.
case, it's basically positive.
Yeah, and that's also related to feedback, because negative feedback is no bad feedback. No, it is correcting feedback. We need it to correct ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, I know
That's-
that from
that's-
cybernetics. Negative feedback
Right,
is...
so that is the interpretation mistake that a lot of people have. They say negative feedback is bad. But no, it's good.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but that's just a name it's
Yeah.
been given.
Yes,
it's a bit,
but positive is reinforcement and negative is correcting. So if you allow, for example, the financial system to go out of hand, all is positive feedback.
Yes.
Because negative feedback will never be used.
It's interesting because in my paper of the dead spiral effect,
Yeah,
I've basically
I read it, yes.
called the dead spiral effect, which is decision making that's very harmful, but it's being allowed to go because you're only going one way, and this is the ant mill that we are in then.
Yeah.
Because the ants are going one direction, and nobody's thinking of getting out of this ant mill and reflecting and giving negative feedback. And people are giving negative feedback, but they are censored. So films are being actively removed. So the negative feedback is actively removed from the system, basically.
Yeah, the correcting information is not allowed. Negative feedback, correcting information to adjust the road where we go to. Therefore, any goal that we are basing upon only positive feedback is unachievable. Therefore, become harmful and therefore become possibly detrimental to our society. And this is so. Information is the energy. Literally, it's energy. Then the equivalence energy, matter, and information is being proven by Dr. Melvin Vopson in Portsmouth University. I'm going to actually interview him in December.
And what is his specialty?
He says that the information is actually maybe the fifth state of matter. So we have solids, liquids, gas, and plasma.
Okay.
Information will be the fundamental part because he says the information is contained in particles in cells, your DNA and so on. Therefore, we have to include in our physical equations the information part. Up till now, there's a lot of information that, books about only energy and matter, the old-fashioned way of physics. But now it includes information.
So basically what you're saying is everything is energy, because there's energy in
information,
in living matter, but also in the let's say the galaxy,
yes,
and the whole
energy. Yeah, sure.
Everything we know, but everything is also information.
Everything is fundamentally contains information. Yeah, that has now been proven scientifically.
So everything is energy, but it contains information.
Yes,
so,
yes, but it's like the equivalence, It's not like is equal to, but equivalent to. So we can use information as energy, and I just said negentropy or negative entropy to create order. Now, Claude Shannon, who was the founder of information theory and also founder of computer science, really, he quantified, the bits of information. He came up with the bit of information. Now, those bits can be quantified. Every word, every question would say yes or no. It gives you one bit of information. So if you think about that quantification of information, plus then you can realize the quality of information, because not everything is relevant, of course.
Yes. Yeah, that's also
right?
part of my research. The quality of information is important.
True.
And reflecting on the information is important.
So then we can use those sciences now to design everything in this idea of probability. So, scientific probability. They talk about probability, Waarschijnlijkheid in Dutch. That we can say, okay, when we have all the information, all relevant, maximum, we cannot know everything, of course, not impossible. But we have to always try. But
the information is there. You just need to retrieve it somehow.
Yeah. So I made a list, for example, on the global risks that are determined by the World Economic Forum. 29 of them every year, even more. And you see, they all share the same cause: information deficit. Because the information to correct them is there.
So what you're saying is, it's positive feedback loop. So we are going in the same circle. Let's do the same decision over and over again.
Right.
So, but we've seen it in several topics, because some of my fellow scientists will say, I don't see anything of censoring, but that's because they do a topic that's not being censored. So there's several topics that are being censored at the moment, and these are all related to basically human health. For instance, with the corona situation, but also in the climate debate, I accidentally, well, not accidentally, I posted something on LinkedIn on the climate. Can we have a debate on this? And then people started saying the debate is settled. And I'm like, I've never heard of a debate being settled in science.
Yeah, but that's the old paradigm of materialism, mechanistic thinking, the old empirical science is there. Of course, they are empirical science, but what the beauty of this information theory, it confirms metaphysics also. So we have to include ourselves as in consciousness, not just by the empirical, senses, but the whole thing. And I think there is this bridge becoming from the physical systems in physics, closed system we call them, heat, gravity, whatever calculations, into the social systems. So what my goal
we are part of a social system.
Yeah, what my goal is to create that bridge for my my studies, my research. So I'm building this bridge.
And so what will this bridge do? You would say the solution is simple. We are creating a lot of problems. And some scientists, including myself, will say there's societal decline, and how can we reverse it? Because that's not a path many people will want to go. And what I'm also saying is that historically there's an elite and the masses, and there is a distance between the two. And the bigger it gets, this distance, the bigger the gap gets, and and both will behave dysfunctionally if they keep on making the same bad decisions over and over again.
Yeah.
For our world.
So what I'm doing now is to list the criteria for functionality, non-harmful functionality. Now you can take that from physics, you can take it from biology, you can take it from cybernetics, a combination of
what
that.
are you meaning with non-harmful? Because the interesting thing is that if I look from a psychological standpoint, that is I've been doing a lot of work. I'm not a clinical psychologist, but what I know from clinical psychology is that if a person is harmful to himself or herself or to others, then that is a reason to take this person out of the system and make sure there's no harm to.
Yeah, well, that's maybe.
That's a very drastical step.
The legal system maybe is built like that.
It's legal, but I'm looking at. So what I also have an intervention. Write about the ideal world, the letters to the future.
Yeah,
and,
I heard about that. Yes.
Write about what worlds will come to pass if we go on like this, and then what can you contribute to this? But I explicitly state that these goals ideally should be non-harmful, but add to a better world, not to a world that.
We are in the similar goal, because the criteria of non-harmful functionality are there. That information is there. We know how biology
What is
works.
non-harmful functionality? Can you give an example?
If
I think it's really interesting, but I think not many people will know what you mean by non-harmful. For you, it's
non-harmful is that I don't damage anything.
Of course, but give a concrete example.
Okay, so if we have a society, and I made a policy, for example, to stop polluting Rotterdam, right? Right. So I'm not going to allow pollution anymore in Rotterdam. Is that possible concerning the society itself? For example, the people who work in the oil industry, I come from the oil industry myself, may lose their jobs. What do you do with them, right? So it's a systemic way to see. And
so you have to take into account all the effects that it has. So you're going to make one decision, let's say zero CO2 or something. Yeah. What does that entail? Does that entail?
So you can have a purpose, and I have made 3 criteria: not to harm social cohesion, not to harm the environment, and not to harm the well-being of life.
Okay.
3. And then you can create all the policies towards that goal. And every time you have a policy that's harmful to them, meanwhile, so halfway, we can say, okay, we need to adjust it. So it's becoming a learning system.
Yeah, this negative feedback loop.
Cybernetic learning system, like was tried by Stafford Beer in Chile 50 years ago. So I think that may be a way to do it, because everything is so scattered. I have this policy for that, I have that policy for that. So I looked at how United Nations work, I looked at how World Economic Forum, how Brussels work, and they are all like, not systemic, but they just looked at picking the things they like to do. This can't work because the lack of information is there.
Yeah, and there's no holistic approach.
The entropy is applied. That's a physical law. We cannot escape that law, you see. We try to escape these laws, but they can't, because we are bound by them. This is a whole perception problem.
So what you're saying is we should have the non-harmful policies, and that is good. I would say let's have policies that make people thrive.
Yeah, so, well-being, sure.
Increase well-being. So non-harmful is kind of, let's say,
yes.
From another that is point 1. Point 2 is let's make sure people thrive and become their best possible self.
Life thrives automatically. It's a self-sustaining system, self-maintaining symbiotic system. But we try to escape it. We try to say that that is there, that's the nature, and we are somewhere else. We are, like Fritjof Capra, who I know personally, the scientist, the physicist, Fritjof Capra. He wrote the Tao of physics. So he combined Taoism already with physics in 1975. So I had dinner with him, and he says every system that doesn't learn is dead system. So we have to build learning, adaptable system, like the cybernetics say, and like based upon the energy availability through the use of information. And that's about it.
It sounds simple, but how do you do it? Well, because now we have governments that that make decisions, and of course you can build a decision support system. I don't know, what is the idea then? How to, I think I know what you mean, and it's really important, but I'm thinking of, okay, how are we going to do that? Because it's, in theory, it sounds good, and it is good. I think, but
it is a scientifically
and now we have,
plausible solution.
Hugo de Jonge and all the other people who are making all kinds of decisions, and
they make decisions not because they are not aware. I think maybe not even that they are bad people, but they are not aware that they make decisions that are not aligned with nature.
That are within a box,
right?
that is within
They're not aligned with nature. They're not according to natural laws. They're not according to societal entropy. That's also possible, disorder in society. So what they make decisions on is usually what they are told to do, or they are not aware of what they do, that they are harmful, and that is what the problem. Then if we can maybe tell them to say, listen, information is equal to energy, and therefore we can adjust the matter we built, the materie, then we have a chance. And this is very basic, fundamental. I think it's my students. I teach people. I train people worldwide. You see, when I train the oil terminals everywhere in the world and say, okay, what is the most important part of your job? Is information. If you prepare well, you have a lot more safety. The probability of survival is higher. The performance probability is higher than if you don't have the information, and so on. So it's the same as crossing the street.
I know, but now people know it, so that's awareness. That's step one.
Step one,
how
yes.
do they, in step two, apply it in their day-to-day lives, in their day-to-day decision-making
sure. I
process?
thought about that, and I built like a warning system, an early warning system, just an Excel sheet, an observational system. You can go in the morning at work, and we just say, okay, the central system of information is somewhere in the desk, somewhere collects the information relevant to the terminal or relevant to the operation or the company or the school, whatever. And that information flow is then corrected during the day by everybody who is involved. It's possible. So when I have, for example, I always have the example, a telephone doesn't work in my oil terminal. I can't call this guy. He's over there. Is that potential harmful? Is it riskful? Yes, it's riskful. Are you going to work? Yes, because they will fix it next week.
And then the whole thing blows up in the meantime.
Well, that is the information control system that you have to build. So you have to observe,
say it's more urgent than
you have
waiting
to
a
observe
week.
what is going on and then act in real time. And this is for every system we build. It's like building a house, building a car. If something doesn't work, you have to repair it right away so it works again. And that is exactly how
You mean everything needs to be repaired right away, or some things can wait?
Some things can wait, possibly, of course. Yeah, there's always something.
If my car is broken and it doesn't work for a week,
then you then you start walk for a week, whatever. But if you need it, you have to fix it right away, right? Okay. Of course, there is.
Or I have an alternative, like.
But there's dependence. Of course, there is maybe dependence on the car. In this case, maybe you can go by bicycle. It's fine, no problem. But if you talk about potential risk, harmfulness in business, in industry, in politics. The affair, what's his name? The money affair with all the harm done with all these people. The money affair? Yeah, that was how do you call it in English actually? The surplus money that was given to the families,
parents.
and they have to pay it back, right?
Okay, that was in the Netherlands.
Now, the information about those families was not collected. What is the situation of these families? And then I make a policy that destroys life, really, without any regard for human well-being.
What happened was that they apparently owed the government money when they couldn't pay it back, which was not the case, but the government says, you owe me money. It was not the case, but then in the end, it went so far as to take their children away. Basically, 1,100 children were taken away or more.
Yeah, well, just in the
from these families, which is
mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah, nobody understands why this happened, but
no, but it's a good metaphor what you just say, because every disaster, 6,000 years of civilization, was caused by these actions, such actions.
Okay, so now we know what the causes are, but and you say I have a system, but it still sounds a little bit far off. Like in a company, I can understand that they can build this system, but how do governments use this, or how could? Because what I've seen now is that the most disastrous consequences are from government overreach. They grab power and they say we are making the rules, and they make the rules as such that it harms many people.
Yeah, so when they realize they are harmful and they will not admit that they are harmful, they're going to enforce it. That's always the case in any civilization. So they're going to enforce it. Every society that went from, for example, normal democracy to socialism to communism to fascism is always because
Are you
people
saying
were
we are
enforced-
down this slippery road?
We're going there because we're enforcing.
Like
we
Matthias de Smet is saying.
we are enforcing, actually accelerating the entropy by force. Because we
So
don't
by
allow.
making these decisions, we are getting into the state of
Because we don't allow the correcting information. So the information to not do it is there.
okay. So
But we don't listen. We just say, oh no, it is our force. We got to force it.
Because
we make
I've
rules,
been-
regulations, and that is a linear approach, which is impossible in a complex society. That's another scientific fact.
What I've been thinking, from maybe almost from the beginning, is that this is so harmful for people. Shouldn't we just say, hey, government, this is not what we want. I'm so sorry, we're not going to do this. You can enforce whatever you want, but this is harmful to us. So, and that this is even in our act of abjuration from, I think, 1651. I always have the dates not wrong, but
Yes, okay, fine.
but the thing is that in that act, and the Declaration of Independence was based on that, we say, okay, governments that are bad for us, we have a moral obligation to not follow this government and to leave this government and go our own way. And in the act of abjuration, it was the king. It was King Philip II of Spain in that very specific case.
Yeah.
But it said a king that's not good for its people should be abandoned.
I totally agree, but the problem is with democracy that we have 70-80% of the people who abide anyway. So it won't happen in a democracy.
Okay, so you're saying it's not happening that people will do this, or
Well,
it's not happening that the government is
unless we are getting hungry and desperate, but that's not that far yet. But I think that as
But in
you
theory,
say,
we can say what in theory should happen and what
I agree
in reality
because
will happen.
I'm a big fan of Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine in the Declaration of Independence in America in the 1770s, wrote the pamphlet "We the People."
Yes.
And I actually use it also to write a same pamphlet in We the People. It's on my blog. It's on my blog.
From the Great Citizens Movement, I wrote the Great Citizens Declaration.
Yeah, something like that. So we are on the same.
We are on the same page.
Same page, probably. Yeah. So, but I'm trying to build, let's say, the scientific basis for the sustainability of life, really. That's it. And physics and biology and some other sciences we can easily use to say, okay, these are the criteria for survival for the long term, the adaptability
for our species,
to align us with the evolutional process from which we all come, with the teleological goal, the goal seeking.
Teleological is
the goal seeking idea.
Is everything, every entity is goal directed, more or less.
So that's why. So what is our goal? We say, okay, what is the goal? And this morning I spoke to somebody, said, what is the goal of your idea? I said, okay, now then we need to collect that and that and that and that so we can achieve it. If you don't collect all that, you won't achieve it because you're missing the information, which is the energy to do it, to do the work. Energy to do the work is a significant part of what we overlook. We think we can lie about it and steal, everything. But lying is, of course, entropic.
Is false information.
It's a false information. We have gaslighting, whatever.
That's manipulation. So you can manipulate information. You can tell people the wrong information.
Exactly. But the goal you seek can maybe be achieved for you for a moment. But in social interdependence theory, maybe you heard of it, Johnson & Johnson wrote that a while ago, is that if we have social negative interdependence, meaning that I can only get it if he can't get it. At the cost of, right? And you see that everywhere. I achieve it by force, by lying about it, but at the cost of hundreds of thousands of people, like you're writing about. And that interdependence theory is very important because you say, how can I include everything? How can I say, okay, we are a world, by a symbiotic mechanism, like mankind with nature, with people, with animals. We have this total incredibly complex living system as Earth is. Huh?
So you say you have living
Yeah.
beings, but the whole Earth
It's
and its inhabitants is
it's
one
one living
organism.
system of communication. And the fuel is information, we find. Wonderful. The fuel to fuel is the information, is the communication, is the cognition, the processing of information. This is Maturana in the Chile Santiago theory is about cognition, that we are processing the information. The DNA is processing the information. It builds you and builds me. And therefore, the DNA contains the information about us, and the beauty of the brain, that the brain has the capability to process it and to do something with it, either in harmful or non-harmful ways. So we have a choice.
How are information and energy related? Because I would say, whenever they try to take away all the information and censoring, and it gives a kind of anger and negative energy also, like, don't please take, you want to have a goal, you want to reach people with this information because you want to correct the system, and then this information is taken away and taken out of the system, and then it builds anger and resentment within society, I think.
Of course,
but
of course,
energy.
it is the negative effects of things, or the effects that somebody is lying to get some goal at the cost of the others. Of course, creates resentment, creates anger. Look at him,
Yeah. So, but I was looking at the energy, and information.
Okay,
link.
well. As I said, the equivalence, the physical, reality of energy, information, and matter has been proven, is there. So information is contained in the energy, in the matter. So all matter, all particles, all electrons, positrons, subatomic matter contain information, and the DNA contains information. Therefore, information is fundamental as the fifth state of matter that allows everything to function. So the functionality is related to the energy level of information. I can't make it more simple than that.
So basically also what you're saying is that if we take out information, then also we take away a voorwaarde, a prerequisite of life.
Exactly.
To exist.
Yes. So because we cannot separate information from reality. We try to do it, but physically that's impossible, because it also complies with the first law of thermodynamics of energy. Can't be destroyed, can only be transferred in another method. Information can't be destroyed either. Wow. That's great.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Right.
So the thing is, with Follow the Science, we try to also make sure that it's more information, transparent information, that people can decide for themselves what information they take to them, and they. But how can we turn the situation around where this negative feedback loop is not is being suppressed? Let's put it that way. Of course, some negative information comes, but it never reaches the decision makers, or the decision makers aren't really doing anything with it, and it's being suppressed. So
it's very hard. It's very hard to convince any journalist in mainstream to think about it.
I think a lot of journalists are not open to hearing this. Okay, so we
Not
know
yet.
mainstream media, but this is a general topic we already know of. Many people already know. Also, you have the mainstream media, which are following the governmental narrative.
True.
By and large,
Yeah.
and then there is the alternative media, which is being suppressed a lot. And scientists who want to speak to alternative media are also that's also difficult. So I know what's not possible and what is being suppressed and what is the problem. But now, how do we solve this, even if it's theoretical?
Yeah.
Because I still keep saying, it's us. We need to come up. We need to come into action and spring into action, even if you're not hungry yet, or because it will come if we. Take out enough farmers, then there will be hunger. if we take out enough systems, you know, that the goods will not reach the people anymore. The
Right.
supply chains,
Yeah, sure, sure. That's,
so
and that is look. You're talking about all this central planning of to do things differently from now on, and that's what is hanging above us. Right?
Yeah, that is.
Right?
It seems
It's
that
an idea.
everything needs to be changed.
Yeah,
but the thing is this change better than it was before?
No, it won't be, because again, that change
Well,
is
it's
based
a
upon an
rhetorical
information.
question.
It's about information deficit. So it's built upon the information deficit, because you have to shut up about it.
Yeah,
You and me, you know. So
and you and many other
therefore,
people.
it cannot be achieved ever. It only
Okay.
creates disorder, more disorder, acceleration of disorder,
True, and
uncertainty,
and a lot of suffering
pain.
for people, I think. So
pain.
I
Yeah.
think
Uncertainty
I
is
feel
pain.
that we are in this stage where society is almost collapsing.
Yeah.
And so from the beginning I've been thinking, okay, how can we reverse this situation? Is there a big idea that, well, you don't have to solve it now, but can we do something
Yeah, well,
as people? What can everybody at home do now?
well, we can start by looking, not just by beginning to read and learn more about alternative information sources, for example, not just looking at mainstream media.
So look at everything that's being censored. That might be
but it's very hard to follow everything, and a lot of people, and even in my own surroundings, they don't really think about these things yet. You know, they do their work, they have their business, whatever, and they don't.
But they still think that the mainstream media
exactly. So they
gives
follow
good
it anyway.
information.
But information collection is like, I always said, a wise man comes prepared, because then he understands that he prepares first before he does anything. So if you don't trust anything, or you want to read something, read. But I cannot make people read, because they won't, you see. I tried also. So please read this book. Or read that.
But we don't have to convince everybody. It's just what should happen. So one is look for alternative information sources. Second is come prepared. So prepare yourself maybe for
and just realize that
doomsday.
that if there is any information lacking for a certain purpose or goal you may have,
Okay.
and it needs information to be censored or to be ignored, then that goal is unachievable. That's the law of physics. So if any politicians listen to this, if you want to have one purpose and say, I'm going to go there for it, and I disregard, the system itself, you will not achieve it ever, because you will lack
Well, the thing is,
the energy and information.
If we look historically, no government in the world has ever been able to destroy the whole world. So hopefully it doesn't happen now. But they're very close to.
Well, destroy is a big word. I mean, the world will not be destroyed, but the happiness, the well-being, and the health of people are at stake.
Yes, I know.
And that is what is
That's
now
why we're talking about this.
about much concern. That when we allow us live as nature by using cognition, the processing of all information, we will find this happiness and well-being.
Okay. So let's do that then. Thank you.
Okay.